Hello, my name is Conrad Stutznegger, and I am preparing this video analysis of some of my insights and breakdowns of watching the second half of the Jazz Clippers Game 6. And I gave myself this assignment with the scenario being pretend that there was going to be a Game 7 and that your job as a video intern helping the coaching staff is bring some ideas to present at the coaches meeting for the Game 7 coming up in 2 days. So what I did is I tried to watch through the film to see what things can the Jazz be more in control of that I can present as potential ideas for the coaching staff to bat around and consider for the next game. So what I've done is I found a few themes and I've prepared some video clips of those different themes to kind of talk about some ideas for the coaches to consider. So the first thing I've got is some ideas about opportunities to reduce fast break chances for the Clippers. Next is going to be some analysis about potential defensive rotations. Third, considering an idea for a defensive set to potentially be used against the 5-out offense of the Clippers. And then fourth, just a couple odds and ends that I also noticed. So I wanted to start by kind of going through a few videos first, kind of talking about fast breaks. And this is something I first noticed about midway through the third quarter. Here was the first instance that jumped out at me. I'll start this video here. So you'll see on this, we get a pretty good layup. Don gets a good shot here, almost falls. If it falls, obviously, then there's no chance for a fast break. But what I noticed this is after the shot, it seems like the Jazz system has been to allow two people to attack the offensive rebounds, which is usually going to be Rudy, and then Royce if it's a jump shot, or the shooter if it's a layup attempt. So here Don and Rudy are down low to fight for the board, and it seems like Bogey is supposed to get back. I'm assuming he's probably supposed to come back at an angle here to kind of cut off around near the top of the key at the college free throw line, maybe extended from the paint there to try to cut off the fast break, which doesn't happen and leads to a 2-on-1 kind of 3-on-2 situation, which the Clippers attack pretty aggressively. On this next one, we actually get two really good looks. Don gets a pretty good look for him on a step back. Rudy gets the offensive board, wide open set shot for Joe, doesn't fall. The sad thing about this is going to be a pseudo fast break off and out of bounds, where we're just kind of getting back a little slow, maybe not totally set up, and Reggie Jackson attacks, gets the kick out for the open three. So this one's just a little more awareness, not even on having to adjust position after a shot, but just being more prepared for the fast break coming. Another one here, Don gets a kick out to Clarkson, really good look. And here Royce is coming in to be a second offensive rebounder. The bounce just doesn't go well, long bounce. And Jordan watches his shot a little too long and then kind of starts casually getting back, leading to a fast break, which Mann takes very aggressively and scores. The same principle there. One more example of this. So get a good look, almost falls. Rudy's there, and Jordan is theoretically the second offensive rebounder here, spends a little too long waiting and kind of jogs back, which leads to a full 5-on-3. I think even if we had been able to cut that to just a 5-on-4, we're able to get better defense there and not be left scrambling, giving up the offensive rebound and the putback opportunity. So that would be the first theme that I've noticed, is if we can just get back more proactively, cut off, maybe we turn those 4 fast breaks into just 1 fast break, or even 2. We got 4 or 5 points off there. Big change here at the end of the game. The second theme was something I saw a lot more commonly, I'll probably spend a little more time on, is defensive assignments and rotations, maybe some options to slow down the corner 3 in the next game. So in the second half, the Jazz strategy was sound. If they're playing 5 out, let's leave their worst shooter open if we have to leave somebody open. Sadly, Terrence Mann started hitting those, and I think there are some things that, which I'm sure were already considered. Now, I do want to throw a qualifier out there. Obviously, I know the coaching staff has probably already seen all these things, knows all these things a million times, so I don't want to presume that I'm telling anyone anything they don't already know, but I just wanted to give an example of what I think are my ability to see and pull things out of a film to be able to help pitch in where needed on a staff as a video analyst. So on this one, Paul George off the drive. Royce has decent position on him, but I think Rudy does need to come help, or it's going to be a foul or an and one, or maybe just a bucket. Gets the kick out to Mann in the corner here. Now, in this case, I think had Don known this was coming, he could have slid over and got onto Mann. So Don slides to the corner. Then Bogdanovich slides to Batum for that obvious pass coming next. And Royce, now that he's passed off in the paint, his man gets back out to Morris to defend that shot. So I think that triangular rotation could help slow down those wide open corner threes. I've got a few more examples of this. Here's another one. Reggie Jackson's able to bully ball in. Rudy comes to help. And again, there's that just easy pass to the corner, which I think at this point probably makes more sense for Don to scramble to the corner, Bogey to slide over onto Batum, and then either Royce is going to Morris or Clarkson can pass off Reggie Jackson to Rudy and get out here to the top of the key to slow down Paul George's 3, knowing that Rudy's there waiting in the paint if he needs help. Another one here. So the Jazz actually see a similar setup, a lot of pick and roll here. They get that corner. This one goes a little better because on that initial pass, Bogey shows just enough to make Mann think, and he makes the pass over to Morris, which Bogey is able to get there to contest. And the Jazz, I mean, he can make that shot, but at least that's a contested wing 3 instead of a wide open corner 3, which we have a lot less expected points on that shot attempt, just from the math and the expected points earned there. So in this next example, we're going to see that Reggie Jackson gets by, but Don plays this pretty well. Passes Reggie off once Rudy comes to help, gets out to that corner to help Mann, and that 2-man game is pretty well defended there. This one just doesn't end well because Don probably sees a little hobbled and slowed because of the ankle, fouls rather than just pushing this to the next action and forcing them to get deeper into the shot clock. So, but the initial defense on that corner 3 they're looking for went pretty well. The next one, so a couple good options there where Bogey kind of defended that initial pass and then Don had a good switch. This one doesn't go as well. Reggie Jackson is able to get by Clarkson. The least he forces him left. Rudy comes in to help. There's that pass to Terrence Mann, just the easy pass to the corner there, who's wide open. Joe kind of fakes for a second, a little like Bogey did, but not as much that Mann believes he's coming. Holds, hits the corner 3 before Rudy can get out there. Again, I think if Joe comes hard here, then either Clarkson can pop out or Royce can slide over with Clarkson getting out to his man to cut that off a little bit better if we were preparing for a Game 7 there. And then this is another example here where Reggie Jackson's able to get past, Rudy comes out to help. Similar theme. I think we're going to have to switch here or rotate, which means Jordan sliding over to stop Batum, Rudy stay with Reggie Jackson in the paint, and Donovan getting back out there to help on Paul George. Then the last example here, I'll stop belaboring these rotation options here. This play I was watching actually gave me an idea I wanted to throw out there for a potential modified zone. So we're starting out man. Rudy's guarding the corner, but he obviously wants to be in the paint. That's where he's the most effective. That's why he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Bogdanovich sees that what they're trying to do, he's getting in to want to help Conley in case Paul George is going to try and bully him. Rudy's now over there. And for a second, we kind of end up in a little bit of a shell zone. Rudy's down in the paint, and there's 4 guarding the perimeter. Now, in this case, the result turns out badly. Beverly somehow hits this shot. I still will take those odds, I think, of probably one of their worst three-point shooters shooting a contested three-pointer from the wing rather than an open three-pointer from the corner. But I think that this could be something here. So I wanted to draw this up on the whiteboard, and so I'm going to switch over to that here to talk about some options I see in this zone for the coaches to consider, bat around. If there's something there, great. If not, I feel like it would be, in this scenario, my job to bring ideas to be considered, and then coaches will either take them and improve on them or, move on to the next thing. So like I said, that last play gave me an idea for a modified zone to consider for when the Jazz are inevitably going to see that 5-out look again. Not many teams are going to be able to do that, as well as the Clippers, who kind of have a lot of guys in that 6'6" to 6'8" range who are big enough to defend the 4 and the 5, but still a threat to shoot. So I don't think a lot of teams are going to have that personnel, but I think the NBA is moving that way. And with as well as the Jazz are defending in the half court versus the pick and roll, I think other teams are going to start to use that against the Jazz a little more. So that set made me think perhaps there's something, a way a zone could work against this. So this is what I saw on that, and a lot kind of coming down the stretch was the Clippers would put man in the corner here. So in this scenario, the Clippers are the circles. Reggie Jackson's going to be green here, primary ball handler. The ball is going to be this little magnetic marble. The Jazz are the 4 charcoal blocks here, and then Rudy, because he's so long, is this magnet here. So what the Clippers were trying to do, it seemed like to me, was put Rudy in the opposite corner, so he's got to come a lot farther to get help, and then run a 2-man game here, especially if they could get Conley involved on a switch involving Paul George. So what I thought was, maybe we could do some kind of zone against this so that what doesn't happen is, it seemed like on a lot of these, as the action started happening and they're getting a mismatch here, Rudy comes over, they get initial penetration, pass to the corner for the open 3, which is going to require a lot of rotation. So what if we ran what probably looks closest to a traditional 2-1-2 zone, but I don't know that that's accurate, because a real 2-1-2 is going to look something like this. What I think I would call this is a 4R zone, meaning we've got 4 defenders out on the perimeter, and then Rudy covering the middle. Obviously, he can't camp in the paint, and he does need to be far enough out to help defend the 3, because they're going to leave 5 out there. But this is kind of a shell zone with Rudy, and I don't think this is going to work for many other teams, because Rudy's combination of size and speed could make this work that most big men are not going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to defend guards out on the perimeter without giving up a drive or an open 3 nearly as well as Rudy, or being able to help cover on anybody who gets through that initial shell into the paint. So my idea here is that there's 2 up top and then 2 that are defending the corners pretty aggressively, And then Rudy's kind of playing at foul line extended and then covering the paint, almost like an inverted triangle, probably cheating over to the ball side, with the idea being that this defender is guarding the three-point line pretty aggressively, so that if Reggie Jackson or someone gets around there, Rudy can easily slide over to cut that off. And there's not an easy pass here because they've got Rudy on them, and even though there's three here, so there's theoretically someone open, it's not going to be an easy pass. What I would do if I were them, I would probably slide over to the top here and slide out, but our defenders should be able to get back out there to the perimeter out of here. So I think these two can be enough of a deterrent to these three that it's not going to be easy to beat, because Rudy is long enough to cut off the action to the paint pretty quickly and make this pass over the top pretty challenging. Some other counters I would try if I were the Clippers are, if these two guys are staying locked pretty heavily to the three-point line, can this person cut in? Again, I think Rudy, as soon as somebody's cutting and somebody calls it out to him or he can see it, he can easily drop back. That's going to be a really hard pass over someone with Rudy's speed and length there. So then the other thing I would try if I were the Clippers on this set, Rudy's going to do pretty good helping in any pick and roll action. He's going to be able to cut that off, or if anyone's able to beat their own man to the paint, Rudy is there to cut that off and help out. So maybe they'll go more traditional 5-out along here. And what I think this looks like is that these defenders are guarding here, and someone's going to have to shade to the ball, which means Rudy's going to have to kind of shade over to this side. Now maybe this defender's playing off a little bit so that if they make the direct pass here, sorry about that they can step up on that and Rudy can drop here, and he should be able to get to that corner to defend that shot, which I'm not really concerned about Rudy coming out to the corner and Terrence Mann beating him to the hole. I think Rudy has become skilled enough on the perimeter that he's going to force Terrence Mann to have to work for something very difficult there. But it is going to require, out of this area, some coordination among the players for the 4 in the shell to guard those 5. Now maybe everybody cheats over like this in this scenario, knowing that with Rudy over here, this pass is going to be very difficult. Now maybe they can hit that consistently cross court to the wing here, but again, Rudy's pretty fast and big. He can probably get over there to contest it. So what I think this zone generally looks like is that there's 2 up at the wings, 2 up top, 2 guarding the corners, and they're probably not dropping all the way into the corner until the ball comes in. And then Rudy is cheating to whichever side has the ball as a defender there. So what I envision this is that Rudy is generally moving along around the free throw line a lot. These defenders are adjusting, and so that if this pass ever comes over, everyone can slide. So rather than Rudy ending up in the corner a lot, where he's away from the ball and has to come and leave this wide open, Rudy's generally at the free throw line where he can cut off drives right as they happen. If anyone cuts through, he can drop to the paint, and if they end up leaving somebody here, that's what we want anyway, is Rudy being able to defend the paint and having someone around. So the question is, can these 4 on the outside switch and coordinate enough in conjunction with Rudy being a pass deterrent and a drive deterrent to slow that down? And then as switching looks between this 2-1-2 modified zone or the 4R zone or the shell zone, whatever it's called, once they start figuring that look out, do we change the coverages there to go back to Rudy in the corner just being better at that triangular switch, which we saw in the other videos? And are those 2 defensive adjustments enough to cut down the number of wide open corner threes, hoping they're going to want to get some shots. We're not going to be able to stop everything. Can we turn those open corner threes into contested wing threes or off the dribble threes, which should push the math farther in the Jazz's favor, give them a little more room for error. So I tried to find a couple examples where I think that for our zone, that shell zone with Rudy defending the paint, but him camping out at the free throw line, being at the elbow on either side where the ball is. And this is one that occurred with 9 minutes left in the fourth, where what the Clippers are doing at this point, they're just going ISO, trying to either get past their man or draw Rudy out so they can get the open corner three. So here Reggie Jackson goes quickly enough that it's fast enough and away from Rudy that he can't get all the way over to help. So I wonder if we were in that 2-1 zone, 2-1-2 modified zone, that 4 shell with Rudy zone, what it would look like at this point right here if Bogdanovich and Rudy were switched. So Bogdanovich is playing the corner and Rudy's at his spot. Now he would probably be at the left elbow right behind Donovan. But so that's going to be a big deterrent. Reggie Jackson's not going to have anywhere to go on that. He's not going to be able to drive past Donovan with Rudy right there at the point of attack. His easiest pass to the right corner, there's a man sitting on that. So what he's really going to have to do is, if Bogdanovich, who is now Rudy, is out of the picture here, there's 2 guys guarding 3 over here. So he's going to have to make a pass over that way. But remember, Rudy is here as a deterrent. So when Paul George makes this drive, Rudy can slide down and cut that off. So my question is, could Rudy acting as a drive deterrent allow those 4 defenders to stick out in their shell on the outside without us having to worry about them being able to hunt specific matchups or pick and roll, which we'll see in this next example. So again, they're loading everyone up on the left side so that they can ISO and get a 2-man game going. And what they want to end up with here is Paul George on Conley so he can do bully ball. He does it just quick enough that Rudy can't quite get there to help. I think that push-off should have been called. Maybe Mike needs to go against his professionalism and really flop there to sell it, but I know that's not how he plays. But again, if this is a 2, that 4 Rudy zone, once they're at this position, so Mike is probably in the corner and Rudy's up here at the paint. Royce passes him off, and I don't think that drive's going to go anywhere. And again, they're having to pass around the paint where there's 4 guys defending 5. They're going to have to slide around, but they've got Rudy to help pressure any drives and cut off any cross-court passes. So kind of leaving that defensive example, just a couple other random things I noticed here. So 2 instances here where I was asking myself, it seemed like Royce is almost sitting on Reggie Jackson's left hand, which I found odd because Reggie prefers to go right on these, but it almost seems like it catches Royce by surprise here and gets beat to the right, makes a tough shot over Rudy helping. I mean, if he's going to make that all the time, he's going to be an all-star, but he made it here in a key moment. Again, Royce is there, probably our best perimeter defender in this scenario on Reggie Jackson, but again, kind of almost seems like he's sitting on his left shoulder, gets beat to the right, and makes another tough shot over Rudy. That he made both of those in the same game is crazy, but I feel like probably could have prevented him from getting to his right so quickly and so easily. And then just 2, these are real nitpicky examples which probably aren't fair expectations of players in real time, but just some clock awareness here. This possession starts getting pretty late in the shot clock, and what it leads to is Patrick Beverley gets the ball here on the wing. Now, if there's 15 seconds on the shot clock, I think Bogdanovich is defending it perfectly. We're pretty happy to give up a Patrick Beverley, deep wing 3 rather than a corner 3. but there's only 6 seconds on the shot clock, so this seems like a better time to really press up tight on him, make Beverly put the ball on the floor, which is not his strength, and they're probably going to have a hard time getting any shot off at all with the time. But here, there's just enough room, maybe 3 feet, for Patrick Beverly to be able to rise up. Again, a low percentage shot, I think we'll take it, but in this case, he hits it, so slightly better clock awareness there. Step up on him with that little time, make Reggie drive. Similar situation here, we get really deep into the shot clock. By the time Patrick Beverly gets the ball in the corner here, only 2.4 seconds. I know Rudy's instinct is to break down, get ready to defend the drive, especially when it's Patrick Beverly, not someone we're super scared of shooting, but there's only 2.5 seconds. If Rudy closes out hard here, jumps past him, forces him to bring it down and drive, gonna be a shot clock violation. Again, that's not fair in real time to ask somebody to make this decision in, tenths or hundredths of a second. But, if my job here is to give analysis to the coaching staff, that's 2 incidents is at the end of the game where, probably knowing the shot clock, got to play that a little differently, a little tighter, to try to force them to then have to make a move with, 3, 4, 5 seconds, or in that last case, maybe just 2 seconds, and maybe we get a 24-second shot clock violation instead of a 3. And if we just get a couple of these things bouncing our way, different game, and we're going to game 7. Again, not trying to criticize. I'm sure all of these things are already aware and already brought up, and asking these players to make these perfect decisions in these 10th split second decision times isn't fair, but just trying to do what I can here to provide useful analysis.